David Berkowitz created a life in his head where he was the center of the universe. When darkness took over, his fantasy life bled into his reality. Only now he was filled with desires of revenge aimed at women and ultimately at God. He says he hated God, but also feared him. In my opinion, he admired God's almighty power and in some sick way was competing. Berkowitz hated that God was always watching him. God can take a life indiscriminately, and so would he. Welcome back to another episode of Cracklin' Rosie True Crime. I'm Rosie, and I'm so excited to be here tonight with you. Thank you so much for tuning in. We've got a few things up for tonight. We are going to take a listen to a clip from an interview done with David Berkowitz by an old Bronx friend, Daniel Lefkowitz. And this was done on January 12th, 2009, while David was still incarcerated at Sullivan Correctional Facility. So we're going to take a listen to that. We're also going to have a few reads actually, of some journals and letters written by David Berkowitz post-arrest, and all of these can be found in their entirety in the Klausner book. So we're going to take a listen first to the video. I think you're going to find it interesting. We've talked a lot about the abandonment issue with David Berkowitz and the impact that Pearl Berkowitz's death had on his life and his future. And I think this may solidify it for you. I think I actually found some footage where Berkey's telling us the truth. So we're going to jump right into that, and then we'll get to the letters. Hang on one second for me. Okay, I think I'm moved over enough for you, and I've got the video queued up. Just a quick note. I say that there's a section where Berkey's telling the truth. Again, it's just a section. So this video is about 10 minutes, maybe a little bit shorter. I'm not saying he's telling the truth through the whole thing, but I'll pause where I feel that commentary might be beneficial. So let's get started. Mute myself. Let's go at it.
So that's the advice you would give to teenagers and also to parents, right? To be aware. Like, what signs would you advise parents to look for?
Well, I wrote something out because actually you asked me before the interview if I had anything to share with parents. And you know, I'm no expert. I'm just a prison inmate. But from my heart, I just got my pen and paper and wrote some things down and then typed it up, and you know, maybe this will be helpful to somebody. If I could just read through it real quickly, it's this. Just wrote down these things from my heart. Do not underestimate the ability of peers to lure your kids into bad behavior. Friends have a lot of influence upon each other. Even the media makes certain negative behaviors seem okay, fun, and adventurous, while never showing the real consequences of such actions. Also, a seemingly happy and well-adjusted teenager is not immune from making bad choices. And then I went on to say, parents need to listen to their children and be alert to read a child's body language. Just don't take a child's word for it that everything is fine. Kids are good at hiding the truth from their parents, and parents do need to intervene, if there is some kind of problem in the kid's life. And watch and listen for that silent cry. Most adolescents will not open up and confide in their parents or with their teachers, guidance counselors, or spiritual advisors. Instead, they will keep their deepest fears or concerns to themselves. So parents have to be good at reading between the lines, and always remember that, like adults whom they model after, teenagers have learned to hide behind a smile. But a smile could be nothing more than a mask to hide pain and problems. So be very discerning, be sensible, and don't panic when problems are revealed. And also, there's no problem that doesn't have a solution. Be patient and work things out. Pray and seek God's help. And I think that that's just some of the things I thought of at the top of my head. That silent cry where, kids just don't share really what's going on. And sometimes the parents are so busy in this hectic world they're living in, everybody's running in and out of the house. The relationship is not always what it should be. So there's that thing, I coined this term, the silent cry, where, behind the smile and everything, you've got to really discern what's going on in your kid's life, And on a personal note, I think, and this may sound kind of corny, but parents and their children need to tell one another that they love each other. I remember growing up, I know my parents loved me very, very much. I had wonderful parents. But I never told them that I loved them, because I guess I figured that they knew that. They just took it for granted that I did. And they never said that they loved me, because I guess they figured that I just knew that. But
So I'm going to stop there for just a moment. So first of all, we've got Berkowitz giving us parenting advice, which sounds kind of crazy when you think about it. But if you listen to his words, he really is a good writer. And the silent cry, that really resonates with me, and I'm sure it resonates with a lot of people. And I think he's being somewhat truthful there. This isn't the part that was, that really got to me, but I just thought I'd pause there. He's saying that he never told his parents that he loved them, and they never told him that they loved him, but they all just assumed that everyone loved each other. He always talks very highly of his adoptive parents, Nat and Pearl, but he's sharing something here that I found interesting. I had never heard or read this, so anyhow. All right, let's get back to Berkowitz.
You'd be surprised how much communication is really missing. And the reason that strikes me personally is because my mom had died of cancer in 1967. And she passed away. I was 14 years old at the time. And it was very devastating. It messed me up emotionally. It affected me for years to come. I was angry at God. I was angry at society. I began to do many self-destructive things in life. After she, years later after she passed away, I happened to meet in the Parkchester section of the Bronx. I was going down Metropolitan Avenue for one reason or another. I happened to have met one of her old friends, a woman named Jean. My mom and her used to play mahjong together. They used to be at each other's houses all the time. So we met, and I had just gotten out of the Army. And Jean and her husband invited me for supper one day. So I took them up on it. I went to have supper with them in Parkchester. And we were talking about the old times. And of course, she loved my mom. And she said to me, your mom said before she died that she didn't know if you ever loved her. And I said, really? And she said, yeah, she said, Gene, I was visiting her in the hospital. She said, Gene, I don't know if my son really loves me. And then, of course, my mom passed away. Now, I didn't even know that had happened. And that always struck a chord in me, and I never forgot that. Even though I went downhill and took many bad turns and ended up in prison and things like that, that years later now, I could look back and say, wow, how important that is. We take it for granted that, people that we're close to, they know, or whatever, they just know certain things. They may not, and I don't even know why I'm sharing that, but I think that at a basic level, sometimes we're just so busy with our lives and we just assume certain things, but we really parents need to really hug their kids and spend time with them, and kids need to really appreciate their parents. I know that just sounds easier said than done,
But your father's
I know why he's sharing that. That was real. To me, that felt very real. And I believe that he felt such a profound guilt when he learned that his mother passed away thinking that he didn't love her, when she was the one that he loved most of all in this whole world. I don't know if you saw him get glassy in the eyes and start to choke a little bit, but that's why he's sharing it. He let that off of his chest, and I believe something like that, which you may think is trivial, was huge for him. So that was, it goes on, and we're going to listen to the rest of this section of the clip, but that was something for me. Make sure that you're writing in chat. All right, let's keep going.
99.
Yeah, my dad's 99, and I love him very much. And by the way, we're always expressing our love to one another. I'm always telling him how much I love him, and even all these years later, every time we both talk on the phone, we start crying. It's without fail, And I just took a lot of things for granted as a child. My life was running so fast, and I regret keeping things bottled up inside my own heart and mind when I had family right there who would have listened to me, and I had my suicidal thoughts, my depressions, and all the things I struggled with in adolescence and later on in adulthood. And I'm thinking, man, why did I hold this all in,
I just want to stop it there for another moment and just, give some props to Nat. At the time, he was still alive at the time of this interview, and he was going to be 99. Nat lived to be, I believe, 100. So he did die shortly after this, but they stayed in contact. He told him, they told each other that they loved each other. And I just think that after what David Berkowitz did, and Nat being his adoptive dad, who I think most would just cut ties and move on with their lives, but he stuck by him. So that goes to show you what kind of a man Nathan Berkowitz was. So, and bless his heart, he lived to be 100 years old. All right, we're going to finish this off. There's just a few more minutes.
And then I ended up just going down a bad course, and it was all avoidable. I could look back now and say the whole tragedy that unfolded with the Son of Sam crimes and all that, the havoc that it wrought.
Sorry, another quick stop. Notice for the rest of this interview, the way Berkowitz detaches himself from everything. The Son of Sam crimes, not what I did, not the murders that I committed, the Son of Sam crimes. You'll hear it in a few different things that he says as this tape rolls, but he's so detached from it. And I don't know, I'm not a murderer. I don't know what you have to do to live with yourself and to keep going every day. And maybe that's what he needs to do, is detach. We know he's really good at that, but he's trying to put forth this repentance and this, this feeling of change, this son of hope, but he's still so disconnected. The Son of Sam crimes. Back to the tape.
That was all avoidable. And I have no one to blame but myself. And I thank God for His forgiveness. I find comfort and solace reading the Bible, the Old and New Testaments, praying, and seeking my peace with God, and just showing kindness to my fellow man, you know.
And when we talk about forgiveness, you felt very relieved when Stacy Moskowitz's mother called you up and forgave you?
Well, I called her. That's another long story. Years later, you know, I always wanted to reach out to the families that lost a loved one through my actions, or those that I hurt, and personally apologize. I've always personally, you know, apologized time and time again, you know, publicly, but never like one-on-one or anything like that. That was my heart's desire, that something like that would happen. And over a period of time, some friends of mine from Georgia managed to become friends with this woman, Mrs. Moskowitz, who lost her daughter Stacy in the last of that spree of crimes.
She lost her daughter Stacy in that last spree of crimes. No, David, I murdered her daughter. She lost her daughter in the last spree of crimes. Detachment. I do see some emotion, though, in his face, and I hear it in his voice. Let's carry on. And
Mrs. Moskowitz was a very angry and bitter woman who had a lot of personal tragedy in her life. But she became friends with my friends, and over time she allowed me to write to her, which I did. I poured out my heart on paper, and that's, again, a long story in itself. It came to a point where she forgave me, and we were able to speak on the telephone. At that time, she was originally living in Brooklyn, but by this time she had moved to Florida. Her husband had since passed away, and she had one daughter left. There was another daughter who died many years before, in the early 70s. Well, anyway, I did speak to her on the phone on a number of occasions. We were even going to get together for a visit, but it never worked out. But she has since passed away. Mrs. Moskowitz since passed away from cancer, but there was a lot of healing in that relationship. It was really a miracle. I wrote extensively about it in my journal, and a lot of people have been encouraged by that.
You felt lifted when she forgave you?
Yeah, that was like a dream come true. I remember being out in the yard on a cold December day, I believe it was, and called her number. She had given me the number to call, and we spoke in, about 20 minutes, and it was very beautiful. A lot of healing happened, and over time we exchanged letters. All those letters that I received from her, they're in safekeeping now outside the facility, because I'll always treasure those letters.
Where are those letters? Outside the facility. Alright, so I'm going to get this off the screen, and I'm going to queue up some of the letters that I talked about earlier, and we will move on to that. What'd you think of that? I definitely think that there were places where there was some honesty and some emotion. I don't know. I hope we're chatting it up together. All right, hang on another second for me, guys. Okay, hopefully you can see that well. This is in the appendix of the Klausner book. And as you can see, it says diaries, notes, and letters written by David Berkowitz after his capture. So this first journal entry is dated November 8th, 1977. People feel a certain eeriness about me, something cold, inhuman, monstrous. This is the power and personality of the demons. This is the spell used by them to turn people away from me and create a situation of isolation, loneliness, and personal frustration as part of their master plan. There is no doubt in my mind that a demon has been living in me since birth. All my life I've been wild, violent, temporal, mean, cruel, sadistic, acting with irrational anger and destructive. When I was a child, I often had very real and quite severe nightmares. In fact, they were so bad, I often had to sleep with a light on or with my father in the room, or I had to sleep with my parents. I saw monsters often, and I heard them, which often caused me to go screaming hysterically into my parents' room. I would say that they, monsters, and then he crosses it out, the bad dreams were very severe. Now I know that they were real. Just like now, I've been tormented all my life by them, never having peace or quiet. In fact, last week I went berserk because they slapped me in the head and made terrible noises. So keep in mind, I have a few thoughts on this. One, this is in the time where, we need to sound insane. We're still contemplating the insanity plea. But I still believe, anything that he felt or saw, monsters, demons, I believe that he really did. I know he said on other occasions, nah, I made that up for this, that, and the other thing. No, I think he saw them, but he knew that he really didn't see them, that they were within him. The monsters as a child and the demons as an adult, they were inside of his head. And I do believe that he knew that. And that's that thin line, right? He's not insane because he knows that these demons aren't real. And he's pretending that he thinks that they're real. It gets so complicated, but he's pretending that he thinks that they're real for insanity, but he knows they're not, but they are there. It's a crazy thing. Maybe you could understand it if you've seen monsters and demons yourself, but they exist in his mind. He knows that they're not external, but he's trying to make it sound like they are. So there's the first journal entry. Good one, huh? All right, let's move on to the next. Okay, so this next prison journal jumps back in time, and it literally says going back to 10/28/1977, and it says recopied. And you could see the last line is crossed out. It's the previous one that I just read. So let's move on here. When I look at all the prisoners in Kings County Hospital, I cannot help but feel sorry for them. They're like lost souls, many in and out of institutions for all of their lives, little hope, no family, no friends. I think people only want peace and comfort in life, but apparently few know how to find it. It seems like the only savior these patients have is Thorazine, but they really need Jesus. I never thought my life would turn out like this. What a mess. If it wasn't for my family and their love, and my lawyers and their supportive help, I don't believe I would survive this ordeal. Some, I guess, are more fortunate than others. Love and companionship and a closeness to God are all that is necessary to challenge the adversary, Satan, and in parens, Sam. Yes, the demons are real. I saw them, felt their presence, and I heard them. And then we jump to November 28th, 1977. I only wish they would let me read the newspapers here, especially when it's all about me. I feel I just have to know what people are saying about me. The judge, Mr. Starkey, hates me, I'm certain. He must think I'm some type of woman hater, but I thought the newspapers had done away with that theory when I was apprehended. If a girl had recently jilted me, as the judge suspects, then I would like to know who she was myself. Who could this mystery woman be? Then there's a long one from 11:11, and I'm going to save that one for another episode because we're going to dive deep into that. But there is a section that I've highlighted about Mr. Williams, and I want to go through that one. Here we go. Mr. Williams is one of the demons who has made his way into my apartment and into my life. He was constantly tormenting me, making loud, constant noises and weird, deafening sounds. I guess he meant deafening. One day, about 5:30 a.m., I had not slept at all. I had not slept all night, and I was tense. Mr. Williams had been hidden behind the wall making the noises. When out of anger, I charged up to the wall of my apartment and leaped into the air to deliver a flying kick, sending my foot through the wall and almost into my neighbor's apartment. However, it was all foolishness because I couldn't stop Mr. Williams and the torment, and I would end up destroying my own property. So he just forgot So the reason I found that interesting is because I didn't know. I knew about Mr. Williams' hole, but he is stating that he ran, jumped up, and did this flying sidekick and busted the wall with his foot, probably the heel of his foot. So when I was reading through this, I'm envisioning this, and he's such a stocky guy. Could you see him? Boom, So anyway, I know it's not funny, but in my head, it was funny. So I thought I'd share that with you. All right, so we're going to go ahead and take this off the screen. There are more prison journals, but I'm not going to do them all today. I just wanted to give you a little taste of those. We'll be covering some more of those on future videos. Before we move on, let's take that off the screen. Okay, before we move on, so this is what I'm on. For those of you that follow me and know me, I'm always reading something. I was looking for that before. I used it as a page marker, bookmark. So I just want to share something with you from Hunting Humans. Of course, this is the Berkowitz section. I just want to read this real quick. And just so you know, once I finish the book, or maybe even while I'm going at it, if you all have any interest in maybe a read on the Berkowitz section, or who knows, maybe we could do like a late night read and I could do passages from any book that you'd like. I did have a request for the Abramson, but I don't know that there's enough people that want to listen to me telling Berkey bedtime stories, but you let me know. Okay, this is important. And this was something that I had not read. So before I go into anything, Elliot Layton, the purpose, I believe, of this book, I haven't read the whole thing yet, but he's really diving into the minds of the serial killer, hence Hunting Humans, the title. But in the Berkowitz section, and probably all the sections, of course, I cheated. I jumped to the Berk. I just got it. I ordered it off of eBay for like $4, and I just got it. So I scanned through, and then of course I jumped to Berkowitz. But from what I can see, he's using sources. So for Berkowitz, I could tell right away based on what he's writing that he's using, or he used, Klausner's research, Abrahamson's research, Carpozzi's research. So I don't think he's ever actually interviewed Burke or anything. That's not the point. The book isn't about Berkowitz. It is about the serial killers. So anyway, in this section, he covers the stabbings first, the December 25th stabbings. And I know one thing that kind of clarified for me, I know that it was reported that there were 2 stabbings, one young girl who was unidentified, and then Michelle Foreman. And in this book, he clarifies, and assuming that this is true and the research is correct, that Klausner was pushing for the 2 stabbings. I guess his work with Berkowitz, they talked about 2 stabbings, And then in Abrahamson's research, he believed the foreman stabbing, but didn't believe that the unidentified female happened. And maybe it's just because he was unable to find any proof of it. So anyway, that's just something minor. But this I find interesting. After he talks about the stabbings, he goes on to a paragraph and it says, "It was 6 months before the voices urged him to act again," he said. So he's quoting Berkowitz. "On the evening of 6 July 1976, he put his Charter Arms .44 Special Bulldog pistol in a paper bag and began cruising the streets, waiting for some kind of a signal to use the gun. When he saw a car stopped at an intersection with two girls in the front seat, the voices called to him to get them. He followed their car as they pulled into a driveway, but by the time he had parked his own car and moved towards them in the dark, they had disappeared." So this is after the Christmas Eve 75 stabbings and prior to the Loria and Valente crime. So I had never known that. I mean, I know there's some of us out there that believe that there are other situations, maybe quote unquote other bodies, but how lucky did those two girls get? And it doesn't say where he was cruising the streets, but it was put in between the Co-op City stabbings and then the other Bronx incident, the first Bronx shooting. So it's kind of sort of inferred that it was in the Bronx, but it doesn't say. So I will say that much, and I wanted to share that. Did any of you ever hear that before? I'm assuming that it's something that was mentioned in one of the books, and, you know, I'm sure that that would have jumped out in my head, but maybe it didn't. And there's no footnote here. So I'm really wanting to see where the source of that is or from. But anyhow, I thought that was interesting. What do you think? Write it in chat. So yeah, again, hunting humans, and I'll share more as I come, and I am coming through more, but I don't want to turn this into, maybe I'll just do one show on interesting passages in the books or focused on this book or whatever. But I thought I'd share that with you because, you know, that sounds to me, he did that. If he did that, actually, if he was hunting those two girls and they luckily got away, that was just about 2 weeks after he got the .44. So it was like he was ready to use it. So I'm going to jump back again, and I know we keep pushing this, but that brings me back to which I believe he did, shoot at an elderly woman in Yonkers. It was probably sometime in February because he purchased the semi-automatic rifle, I think it was January 26th. So I believe that it happened just about 2 weeks after that in February, like I had mentioned on another video. But we're not going to go too far into that. I just thought I'd share that with you. Let me know what you think. Did you know that, or did you find that interesting? I hope you're chatting away. So we're going to move on. So the next thing that I want to share with you, I posted on my Facebook page, looks like October 12th. And this was something pretty cool, a birthday card to D Channel from David Berkowitz, and it was found on an auction site by community member Anna Luna. So thank you for that, Anna Luna, who found this and shared it with us. Well, first, this picture. Can you see that? How do I close the comments? Well, this is on the thumbnail, so I know this one's roaming the streets of the tubes now, but I hadn't seen this picture. Apparently, it was marked his Attica mugshot. So we've been using that a little bit just to change up. And let's see if I can go back. All right, how do I get rid of this? There we go. If only I can make it bigger. All right, well, I'm going to read it to you. Birthday card to Dee, and it's dated 8/14/1979. Dear Dee, this is for your birthday and our anniversary, our first meeting. Wasn't it sometime in August of 77? Boy, how time flies. And it's misspelled, and then he puts in parens, flies, with a question mark. You might find this more interesting than Amityville Horror. Love, David. And it was just marked on 8/14, presented to D Channel of Midford, Oregon, from David Berkowitz. I love you, kid. So he signed the inside of this book, A Treasury of Witchcraft and Devilry. And one thing that was brought up when I was chatting a little bit with Anna Luna was this book is, I think it was published in 74 or 75. So this is only assuming that David got this book at around that time, or had this book in his possession, that he definitely was interested. He had interest in the occult and witchcraft, which my comment was, well, you know, here you go with that duality. He's Jews for Jesus, born again Christian. And if you're pissed off at God, what would be the opposite of that? Well, you're going to get into witchcraft and devilry. And he claims on many occasions that he was interested in the occult. Does that mean there was a cult? No, not necessarily, but you can be interested in the occult and do it privately, or learn about it privately, which is what most people do, especially initially. If there's just an interest, people read about it and learn about it. You don't just say, okay, I'm a little interested, let me go join a cult. So this book was given to Dee with that card, and he signed, again, I showed that here, he signed the book, I Love You, Kid, from David Berkowitz. I love you, kid, because he's so famous. But pretty interesting. And, that still baffles me. Their anniversary, they met August in 77 when he was in Kings County Hospital. Was Dee, did she know someone on staff? How did she get to Berkowitz so soon? I mean, immediately after him being taken into custody. The mystery. And anyone who knows anything about that, I don't. I've tried doing some research, and I just don't know where she came from and how she got a hold of him so quickly after incarceration. So if you have more information on the D Channel mystery, send it to our Gmail, or maybe come on and talk. So before I get away from this, I do want to mention we will be scheduling more lives. I always like to do the premieres because honestly, I enjoy working on videography. It's just a mind-cleansing hobby for me. I realize that it's easier to go live, and that would allow me to be present more often. Yeah, more things can go wrong live, but we're a small group, and I really appreciate your support. I think that the supporters of the channel that will come on will be cool with me if I forget to unmute myself, or if the internet goes down or anything like that. So I am looking into that. We were going to do a preliminary live today with VIP members, but I decided that we have new subscribers. I wanted to put out a video that everybody could enjoy, and we will move that to next week where we do another sample live. I mean, I've done them before. Before I go live with everybody, I'd love it if I had a few people that I really care about the success of the channel, and we could test logistics so that I'm not doing that on air with everybody. So no big deal on that. Also still working on a recap, and I will be coming back to you next weekend with that. I hope that you enjoyed some of the things that we went through today. Again, we listened to the clip of David Berkowitz and Daniel Lefkowitz, who was an old Bronx friend. It doesn't say anywhere on the resources, and I will put the actual full video. I'm trying to get permission to air the full video, and we could do that for a movie night, or we could do it with commentary live. But it doesn't say specifically how they knew each other, other than they were both from the Bronx, from the area. They weren't in auxiliary together. They didn't even go to school together. So I'm thinking maybe the families knew each other from synagogue. Pure speculation, but it didn't sound like they were besties. They just knew each other. So we covered that. We heard him lift some guilt off of his chest, not telling Pearl how much he loved her, and her passing away thinking that he never loved her. I mean, how heartbreaking for Pearl. And what a load of guilt if he is actually capable of feeling guilt, which I felt that he was pretty authentic in that section of the clip. Of course, we ran it through. We heard a little bit about his story with Mesa Moskowitz. And I found interesting, his friends in Georgia, and that he's got these letters, the correspondence back and forth to and from Mrs. Moskowitz, and they're held outside of the prison in safekeeping. So be very interesting. I know that's very, very personal. And I don't know that that's something that anybody from the family would want aired, but it would just be a really interesting read. We also went through a few of the prison journals, which were interesting, and we'll go through more again, as I mentioned earlier. You'll find, of course, with his duality, he goes from trying to be empathetic to being crazy, to being empathetic to being crazy. And so they're interesting. I thought the Mr. Williams' whole side drop kick was kind of funny. And then, of course, the passage in The Hunting Humans, the two girls who escaped Berkowitz's craziness and wrath. And then finally, just our little find. Thanks again, Anna Luna, the card to D Channel, and the mystery and the saga of D Channel. So again, if you know anything, share with us. Maybe you'll come onto the show once we start our lives more regularly. Okay, guys, I don't want to drop off of chat. I've had many of you say, oh, the chat gets so good, and sometimes the videos are a little short and we're all warmed up. So I did include some awesome archive footage from NBC News, and I know you all enjoy that. So if the chat is cooking and you'd like to chat a little more, please stay on and enjoy the footage. Otherwise, thank you so much for joining me tonight. I really appreciate you. I have a lot in store, a lot coming up. And for new subscribers, if you're watching this, also know that I will be doing something a little bit more on the recap side to get you caught up on this case if you're interested in the Son of Sam. But I will also be jumping back and forth with shorter videos on other cases. So thanks again, everybody. Have an awesome night. And until the next one, take care. Ciao.
Mr. Ziegel, what kind of man was Mr. What's his name?
Mr. Berkowitz?
Berkowitz, I'm sorry. Please don't stand behind me there, babe. What kind of man was Mr. Berkowitz?
Mr. Berkowitz was a more or less of a quiet, reserved person. He seemed to be a good worker, did his job well. And nothing like the reports that I hear about him being quarrelsome or angry or anything.
What was your reaction? What was your reaction when you first heard that this guy was more than likely the Son of Sam?
Well, last night I heard over the radio a report, and when they gave his name, it didn't jive until I heard that he was a postal employee, and I was just dumbfounded, speechless, because I had no suspicions whatsoever. No suspicions whatsoever.
What did he do on? Did he do anything on the job that would lead you to believe a guy could have that sort of?
No arguments or temper or raising his voice or anything like that.
He worked well with people.
Yes, it seemed to work all right with people. It's
You ever hear any complaints about him?
no.
So what's your, as you reflect on all of this now, what's your feeling?
It's just it's a sad day. And I'm glad that they've got him. Finally. It's just unfortunate. It's a sad day. Sad day. It's a terrible day.
Mr. Ziegel, thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
That, yes, sir. Let me make one picture over your shoulder here, just in case we might meet up. Just talk to me, please.
Right.
Look at him and just talk.
Tell me, tell me one more. We're not recording. What do you think of this guy, Son of Sam?
Well, as I said, he was a quiet, reserved person. More or less kept to himself. It's just the whole thing is really shocking, speechless. It's sad. It's really sad.
All right. We're on the other side, right, for the other dude?
Yeah, we're on the other side.
All right. Speed, please. I want to slate this. Huh? No, you can stand there if you want to. Then. You can't stand back there. You can't stand right there. Gerald Arrington speaking with Frank Elliott.
Mike Elliott.
Make that Mike Elliott. M-I-K-E E-L-L-I-O-T. 2 T's. E-L-L-I-O-T-T.
Right.
Mike Elliott, 2 T's. 2 L's, 2 T's. Mike, how did you know
Well, when he first started working here, it was about 6 months ago, the foreman told me to break him in and show him what to do on, processing the mail, on the collection. And we worked together for about 2 or 3 months, and like we sat and had coffee together. And he did a lot of talking mostly about he liked to go fishing, and he did a lot of reading. He liked to read. I think mostly novels, And the only thing he ever said about the Son of Sam was that he advised one girl to put her hair up in a bun, that she shouldn't wear long hair because that's what the Son of Sam was after, girls with long hair, long brown hair. And that's about it.
he actually advised one of the girls he was working with that she should wear her hair up?
Right, he told her to wear her hair up, that Sam is going after girls with long hair, long brown hair. He told this to the girl. Her name is Teresa Graciano.
Did he ever say... Y'all gonna have to stand back, please. Please. Did he ever say or do anything that led you to be a little suspicious, or at least wonder kind of where or what he's all about?
No, he never spoke about his time before the post office. He never did any talking about his home life or anything. The only thing he spoke about was his job. He says he hopes he could make it, the training and everything, and that he likes working here in the post office. That's the only thing.
What about girls? After all, he was 24 years old.
Well, he had spoken a couple of times. He saw a couple of girls pass by that worked in the post office. He said they were good-looking girls, but that's about as far as he would talk about girls,
You ever see him with a girl?
The only girl that I saw him with was this Teresa Graciano,
Socially, I mean. You ever see him with a girl?
No. Only, on the coffee break, we'd be, he'd be sitting with and talking with the girl, And I don't know what they talked about or anything.
I want to do this one little more time over again, just pretend like that didn't happen. Okay? I don't want to ask to hear you.
Yeah.
Okay, roll.
All right. Tell me, what do you know about David Bergowitz and what your relationship was and all like that?
Well, when he first started working for the post office, the foreman told me to break him in and show him the breakdown of the mail, the processing of the collection. And like we worked together for about 3 months. He worked in my section, and he was a good worker. He was quiet, We used to go to coffee together, and he would discuss he liked fish.
Frank Elliott, Mike Elliott, M-I-A-M-I-K-E, E-L-L-I-O-T-T. Mike Elliott, 2 L's, 2 T's. Tell me what you knew about David Bergowitz.
Well, I didn't know much about him before he had come to the post office. All I knew about that he told me he liked to go fishing, he liked to read a lot of books, and that's about, you know.
Did he seem strange, weird? Did he seem at all?
No, he didn't. He seemed calm, cool, and collective all the time when we were working. He did the job, what he had to do. When it was time for his break, he went on a break. We discussed things that he liked to do, and that's about it.
What was your reaction when you learned that David Berkowitz was perhaps the son of Sam?
Yeah, well, I saw his picture on the Daily News, the final edition, and they didn't say anything about the Bronx post office. It just said that he worked for the post office. And when I saw the face, I said, I know him from somewhere, but I didn't place the post office. I said, I seen him somewhere in the Bronx. But then when the post came out and they said the Bronx post office, then I said, that's the guy. I worked with the guy, and I broke the man in when he first started working for the post office.
And on all that time, you didn't notice that there was anything strange or different about this fellow?
No, nothing whatsoever, nothing different. No, just he came in, he did his work, and he went home. He used to like to eat hero sandwiches. He went out on his break to buy sandwiches, come back, and he'd sit down. But most of the time, like, he did sit by himself. Like, the first couple of months, he sat with me, but after that, he stayed in the corner by himself with his books, reading. He looked like he was always deep into the books. He looked like a very studious person. Yeah. And I was really shocked to know that he was the guy. It's very hard to believe.
Bring it, cut away. Felipe, Perkins trying to talk you out of it, right?
Let's do this. Let's do it.
Tell me one more time, how did you know this guy?
Well, when he started working for the post office, they put him in my section.
Talk to me. Look at me.
When he was working he worked in my section when he first started working in the post office, and I broke him in. The foreman told me to show him the breakdown on the collection. You know, the mail coming into the post office from all areas of the Bronx, and like he was.
Got it. I just need about 5 seconds of this. Okay, tell me one more time. What you thought about this guy? Okay, come on.
Well, I thought he was a quiet guy. I would never think in a million years that this guy is son of Sam. Like, he was always so quiet. He did his work. He came to work. He had his breaks. He would sit down. He sat with me the first couple of months of training while I was showing him what to do. But after that, he broke away and he sat in a corner reading books, and that's about it. He would see me in the hallway. He would nod to me, but that's about it.
John Deal, whose girlfriend, Christine Freund, was murdered in January, said the arrest was good news for everybody.
I feel very, very good about it, that everybody can walk, or go out with their dates safe again now. Some of us had to, suffer through this.
At the Brooklyn home of Stacy Moskowitz, the last person murdered, her mother praised the police, but added that the family's life will never be the same.
It's a very difficult thing to resume anything normal afterward, as far as I'm concerned anyway. You just can't pick up nothing pieces when there's no pieces to pick up.
New Yorkers saw the arrest as a release for New York's young women and their parents.
I was getting a little worried since I have short length brown hair and everything. But now I feel much better.
Oh, I feel much safer walking the streets of New York. Much safer, I can go out at night and go to the discotheques and just feel better about it. I don't have to worry that my parents were very worried that I couldn't go out at night. I was always home, went to sleep early.
I think it's great. Now I feel so much safer about going out at night.
I'm very happy. I have daughters.
So after almost a year of tension and fear, this city's young people and their parents are beginning to relax. Lee McCarthy, NBC News, New York.
This is the man police believe to be the son of Sam, the .44 caliber killer who has killed 6 and wounded 7 in a string of attacks over the last 13 months. He was arrested outside his apartment in Yonkers, New York at 10:30 last night and brought to police headquarters about midnight. He is David Berkowitz, a 24-year-old postal worker who lived alone. He was smiling as he was brought in. Detectives displayed a .44 caliber pistol found in Berkowitz's car. The police lab says its tests indicate this was the gun used in the most recent Son of Sam slaying.
Ballistics section has just called and told us that the .44 caliber gun recovered tonight has been tested, and the bullets match the bullets recovered from Stacy Moskowitz.
New York's Mayor Beam appeared after midnight.
I'm very pleased to announce that the people of the city of New York can rest easy this morning because of the fact that the police have captured a man whom they believe to be the son of Sam.
It was Berkowitz's car that led police to him. It had been ticketed for being parked by a fire hydrant on the night of the most recent murder, just a few blocks from the murder scene. Routinely following up the ticket, police found the car in Yonkers and noticed a .45 caliber machine gun inside and an envelope addressed in the killer's style of handwriting.
He was apprehended. He was advised of his rights.
And he resisted.
Advised that he was under arrest, advised of his rights. No, he was resigned to what appeared to be his fate.
Did he make any admissions?
He made a statement along, well, you got me.